before the great and terrible day of myself sends down the wrath and judgment through him. He prophesies the truth, so listen and hearken unto him. For he cannot pardon your transgressions. Listen and heed unto what he has to say. Observe and do change your way, and you will be saved before the terrible day of myself. Release the wrath and judgment upon the earth against those that are sinful and evil.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Albert Matthews. I am the last day prophet of our time. And what I'm going to bring is share things with you. And what I need to do is to, I'm trying to adjust my camera here. So I'm sorry. What I'm going to do is share in the book of Genesis, the beginning. But not only am I going to share the beginning of Genesis and how things took place, I'm also going to share and put writings in there that came from the books of Enoch that explain a more deeper and clearer understanding that in the book of the canon, excuse me, I'm trying to adjust things here for myself, it doesn't explain. The books of Enoch was studied very extensively back in the early Jewish faith and belief back in their time. It was in their Bible, in the Torah, in their Bible that they had. But later on, the books of Enoch was removed. And the reason why it was removed was because when Constantine took control and power in Rome, I'm trying to give a ground rule here of how things took place first. He thought that the teachings of the Hebrew Bible was a heretic, and he did not allow those teachings to be allowed to be put in the Bible that you have today, the canon, as they consider the canon. He did not allow some of the teachings for other writings to be put into the Bible. The Bible he created and put together and formed together himself. That's where the Catholic Church started. He considered the Hebrew Bible a heretic teaching and would not allow it. Now, in the beginning, though, in Genesis, we all know that God created the earth, the heavens, and all the stars, and he also created the angels. But God had in mind to create human beings, too. Because you have to understand, before God created anything on this planet, anything that he created at all, he was by himself. He was alone. Okay? It was void. It was empty. There was nothing here. God did not want to exist in that kind of existence of just himself. He created everything, and he saw the power and the glory of what he did. But they didn't praise him back. They were objects. He seen what he did and what he created. I'm trying to start it out on a ground rule here, and getting the platform of how and why it took place. Now, he created the angels. The angels praised God to a certain degree, but some of them, went against God. And in the Bible, it's considered the fallen angels. And it was headed and led by Lucifer. But before he became Satan, the fallen angel, he was Lucifer, and then he developed pride in his heart, and then he was called Satan by God. any assistance from God. God made the angels in his image, perfect, holy. They just served and worshiped God. Then he created man. Well, if you understand in the Bible, in Genesis, Adam and Eve was created in the same image as God himself. He was created what? Perfect. He knew no sin. But God wanted to feel needed. Okay? He knew that Adam and Eve was going to fall in the garden. He knew all things. He knew that Lucifer was going to go against him and cause man to fall. He knew all that. He already knew to create Jesus to redeem man back of what Adam lost in the garden. So you have to understand what took place, how it happened. And that's what you have to understand. To understand the beginning of the fallen nature of man, you have to understand why it was the way it was. You have to understand that Adam and Eve knew no sin. They were perfect in the image of God. Spirit. They did not lose their perfection until after they ate the forbidden fruit and disobeyed God. Then they fell into sin. Okay? But God threw them out of the garden to keep them and protect them so they wouldn't eat from the tree of life. Because by eating from the tree of life, what would have ended up happening? If they ate the tree of life in their fallen condition, they would have never tasted death. And they could have produced children, and that's also in that sorry condition. Think with me here. So you have to understand what took place, why it happened. Everything that happened in the Bible happened for a reason. It just didn't happen. It happened for a reason. God kept Adam and Eve from eating from the tree of life because he could not afford them to reproduce children in that condition. You would have the whole world never being able to die in a sinful condition. Hell on earth. So God threw them out. And he put a punishment on man. Not as much Adam and Eve as it was the descendants. Because he said, from the dust you were taken, and the dust you will return. My spirit won't always strive with man. See? God's spirit won't always strive with man. And man's life will be 120 years. Adam and Eve, of course, lived longer than 120 years. But God wasn't talking about Adam and Eve's life. He was talking about after the flood. Because he knew he had to wipe out the world. He knew it. This is where the fallen angels come down. And after Lucifer caused Adam and Eve to fall and get thrown out of the garden, then Lucifer lost his hold on man. Because Lucifer wanted man to eat the forbidden fruit and then eat the tree of life. You understand? And he wanted man to be totally separated from God. Permanently. God knew that. So God created a way for man to get back and to gain what Adam lost in the garden when he ate the forbidden fruit, the spiritual fall. This is coming down through Christ. For in Adam all died, and in Christ all will be made back alive, spiritually. God had no intention of taking you out of the ark, but to put you back into the fallen condition that you had lost, the spiritual nature. That's what he wanted to do, was to put you back in the image of himself in the beginning that Adam lost. That came through his son Jesus. Now, into the ideal of the fallen angels. Fallen angels came to cause more havoc. He already caused man to fall. Lucifer did. And 200 of Lucifer's helpers decided to come down on earth and mate it with the daughters of the tribe of Dan. And they used secrets that they understood to swap or trade for the right to have the daughters to marry them. And the tribe of Dan gave them that right. And I'll be back to show you this in just a minute. Okay, here I'm back. Now, first we're in the book of Enoch. Let me show you the page up here, and I'll show you the book of Enoch. Okay, you can see that there. Translated by M. And I'm just giving you a rundown here. And this was done at the Library of the University of London. Now, I'm going to bring it down here to the 6th chapter, and we're going to start there, and I'm going to show you something. And it came to pass when the sons of men had increased, and that in those days they were born in fair and beautiful daughters. The angels, the son of heaven, excuse me, Son of heaven desired them, and they said one to another, come, let us choose wives, but the children of men let beget for ourselves children. And the angel, the leader, said unto them, I fear that you may not do this deed to be done, and I alone will pay for this great sin. Because angels at this time, they had free will. They could do what they choose to do. Some of the angels disagreed with God creating man. Lucifer was jealous because God loved his creation, man. And he told Lucifer and all the angels to bow and help man. And Lucifer said, no, I'm not going to bow before a creature made of the dirt, and I'm made from you. When God brought the angels the first time, and when he created the angels before man, he told all the angels never to bow before anything but himself. This is where Lucifer feels that God tricked him, because now God's telling Lucifer to help him out to man, to help man. But that's beside the point. The point is you obey what God tells you, even if you don't understand it. But Lucifer fought against God, and he decided to go against God. Pride. So the angel here, the leader, I fear that you won't do this, and I pay a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath, and bound one ourselves to another to plan to carry out this deed effectively. And they all together had bound themselves with the curse to it. And they were all in 200, and they came down on Adonis, which is the summit of Mount Harmon. That's a mountain. Mount Harmon is in the land of Dan. And I'll show you that. And they called the mountain Harmon because they all swore and bound one another with the curse. And these are the names of their leaders. And you can see there all the different angel, fallen nature angels that were there. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and see, I'm not going to lose any of this information because this information is very important. What I'm trying to do is show you why and how it took place. These are angels under the leadership or under the charge of Lucifer. They were following Lucifer's lead. They agreed to do this. They called So let me bring back it. I'm going to bring back and show you something here. Okay, I'm back. Now, I brought a map here of the Israel, and I'm trying to bring this all out so I can shed this and share with you different things. This is the Israel map, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference and why it is the way it is. Now, here you have the tribal land of all the different tribes of Israel. And these are the different names. And then you have the tribe right there. It's called the tribe of Dan. See it right there? Now, the tribe of Dan is a landmass. The tribal people of the land is divided. And you can see right up there, let me see if I can get this a little bigger so you can see what I'm talking about. Remember I told you the angels, the fallen angels, came down on the land of Mount Harmon. Well, there's Mount Harmon. See there? And it's right on near the boundary of the land of Dan. See there? There's the tribal land of Dan. But if you go down, and I'm going to show you this, and it's very interesting. There's Dan too. See there? Israel, the landmass or the tribal land of Dan is divided in two spots, two places. One here and one down here. And this is near the sea. This is where Tel Aviv is. Right here. There's tribal land here, and the tribal land is up there. But the landmass that we're talking about here, where they came down on, was right here. And this is the tribal land of, if you notice, that's Mount Harmon, right there, the mountain. It's right on the tribal land of Dan. This is where the angels descended and came down on. There's 200 of them. Now, like I tried to explain, everything I bring to you, I'm going to share and show you. A lot of preachers and ministers does not want to agree with all this. They just absolutely refuse to agree with anything other than what the Canon Bible is teaching them, because the Canon Bible was brought together and formed by the Catholic Church back in 312 AD with Constantine. And he threw out all this other information. He didn't use it. In fact, he thought the Hebrew Bible was considered a heretic teaching. And at that time, their Bible, the Hebrew Bible, had the books of Enoch wrote in it. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. They taught from those books. But Constantine, when he formed his Bible and created the Bible that you have today, which is Genesis, or in the canon form, he did not allow the Hebrew teachings or any of the writings of the books other than what he considered right to be put in. But he considered the Hebrew Bible teachings heretic, and the books of Enoch was not put in there. Let me get back, and I'm going to show you some more information. But I wanted to show you that the tribal land of Dan was divided in two spots, one there and one there. And Mount Harmon was the mountain that the angels descended upon. 200 of them. They decided to mate with the daughters. And they gave up secrets to the tribal fathers at that time, back in the early beginning of Genesis. And I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to bring that to you. So I want you to try to give you a clear understanding of what took place here. Now watch. Okay, I'm back. So now we're going back into chapter 7 of still talking about the angels. And I'm going to show you something here, what took place when adjust my pictures and everything, so I got everything in here. So everything is right. Okay. Chapter 7, they took wives for themselves. Everyone chose for himself, one each. And they began to go into them and created with them, see? And they taught them charms and spells and showed them cutting of roots and trees. And they began pregnant and bore what? Large giants. Okay? Now we're going to go on down. Alright? And we're going to finish this out. And down in chapter 7, still they devoured all the toil of men until they were unable to sustain the giants. And the giants turned against them, and the giants started to devour the men. So here now we have giants devouring the men, eating them. That's how bad it was getting. Now we're going to go on. And they begin to sin against birds, against animals, against reptiles, against fish, and they devoured one another's flesh and drank the blood from it. And then the earth complained about the lawless ones, meaning to say the earth was actually crying out to heaven. Heaven was hearing all the complaints. When they sin against the birds and the flesh and the animals and that, and they actually, what they actually was doing was mating with the animals. Because now I'm going to get into something a little deeper now, and I'm prophesying here. You have to understand what took place. When the angels mated with the women became pregnant. And the women bore babies. These babies were not normal-sized babies like women of today. I mean, women of today has a very large baby, right? Well, back then, that was not the case. These babies these women were having were like 20 and 25 pounds. They were huge, to the point where it killed the women. All right? They had children, but the women died. The daughters died through childbirth. And what ended up happening, these angels, their sexual desire stopped when the daughters died. And the women in the tribe of Dan had nothing to do with them no more. So they started to sin against the animals. And I'm going to show you that in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And wait till I find this and show you this. And back in here in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the angels exploited their fruitfulness of the earth. They ate everything to the point where they couldn't sustain the giants. They just couldn't keep them no more because they were huge. Then the 200 angels chose animals, listen to this, in which to perform unnatural acts, including humans. Now, you have to understand the Dead Sea Scrolls are in fragments, meaning they're not completely intact. So you kind of like read between the lines there, and you get a general drift. There's enough information from these to get an actual understanding of what's happening. And I've enlarged it to where you can see it and read it for yourself, even if I can't pronounce the words, okay? So bear with me. Okay, we're talking about in 1Q 23 fragment 1 plus 6 blank 200 donkeys, 200 asses, 200 rams of flock, 200 goats, 200 blank in field from every animal, from every bird blank blank for next line, the outcome of demonic corruption was violence, perversion, and a brood of monsters, beings. Compare Genesis 6:4. This is where I believe the dinosaurs came for. We're not talking about giants now. We're talking about a particular species of creature. What does it say? Brood, a creation of what? What? Monsters that only can assume that they were dinosaurs. And fragment 4Q53:1, fragment 21, blank, they defy blank. They behold, begot giants and monstrous. They begot, behold, all the earth was corrupt, blank, blank, with its blood in hand of. So I'm reading fragments here of giants which did not suffice for them in blank, blank, and they were seeking to devour many. The monsters, blank, blank monsters, the monsters attacked it. So I believe right here that the giant that was created by the angels, by the daughters of the tribe of Dan, were asked to go against the other offspring, which is the dinosaurs. And so the giant men were asked to kill these dinosaurs at the time. Now, I believe there was a lot of dinosaurs back then. I don't believe they killed them all. But you have to understand the time period you're talking about. You're talking about Adam and Eve, who lived 900 years. So I think man has this time period all messed up. So it goes in 4Q532, column 2, fragment 1, 6:2, the flesh blank, all monsters will be blank. They will arise lacking the true knowledge, blank, because the earth grew corrupt, blank, and mighty. They were considering, blank, from the angels upon, blank, in the end it will perish and die. They caused great corruption in the earth, and this did not suffice to blank. They will be blank. The giants began to be troubled, because this is when they found out that the Lord was going to destroy the world with the flood, and they were going to be destroyed. Because they keep explaining how the dinosaurs died. I believe the dinosaurs were around this time, and I've showed you that they were created monstrous beings. So these were the unnatural act that the angels had with the animals. See? That's what took place here, and that's what I believe. I believe the angels performed unnatural acts with the animals, the normal animals at the time, and created monstrous beings, which were the dinosaurs. And I believe the giant men that were created by the daughters of the tribe of Dan was asked to protect the human race by fighting against the dinosaurs. One offspring of the angels killing all the other offspring. I believe that's what took place here. And I believe there was so much bloodshed, so much killing, that God destroyed the earth with the flood to wipe it all out. Now, see, the Spirit can bear witness with you, provided you're willing to accept what I'm sharing with you. So, but I wanted to bring the Dead Sea Scrolls and show you of what took place here, because it says right here, monsters. Okay, monsters. That, I believe, is the dinosaurs. because they're talking about two different kinds of creatures here, or beings. One is considered monsters, and one is considered giants. Well, we all know that dinosaurs are giant, but they are signally calling monsters. I believe they're identifying these dinosaurs as calling them monsters, and giant men as the giants. And I think the giant men were asked to help the men of that time fight against these monsters. And let me be back with you again. I'll show you some other stuff.
Listen, hearken unto my witness, for he speaks the truth. Hearken and listen before the great and terrible day of myself sends down the wrath and judgment through him. He prophesies the truth, so listen and hearken unto him. For he cannot pardon your transgressions. Listen and heed unto what he has to say. Observe and do change your ways, and you will be saved before the terrible day of myself. Release the wrath and judgment upon the earth against those that are sinful and evil.